Every Friday, we give the main opposition party, the United Progressive Party, an opportunity to present their views on the topical issues of the day. And this week, we are very honored to have the youngest elected member of the Central Executive of the UPP, Jonathan Wehner. You're just 22? You sure?
22 years old, Jacqui. 22. Good morning to you, Jacqui. Good morning to your listeners on radio and your viewership via Facebook. It's great to be in the best radio station on the island, Observer Radio.
Yes, thank you. Say it again, Jonathan.
The best.
The best morning show?
Oh, yes, Dr. Jacqui Quinn, of course.
Thank you, Jonathan. Now, let's start with a matter which was raised at the start of this week and which regarded the attendance and participation in the historic SIDS conference. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Jacqui Quinn, made some statements which were debunked by Councilman John Mussington and debunked by UPP party leader as well, Jamal Pringle, in a press statement. I think our audiences would like to hear from the party with regard those assertions made by Minister Quinn.
Yes, I will definitely address those. Just before I get to that, I just want to give a congratulatory statement to Observer Radio on your very successful Observer Day.
Please go ahead, Jonathan.
And I must say, we in Antigua and Barbuda, we know how important Observer Radio is. It's the first ever independent media house in Antigua and Barbuda. Mm-hmm. And I keep on saying it to everybody who would listen to me. I believe the Honorable, I call him the Honorable, Winston Derrick, should get some sort of national honor for the work and the fight he had to go through just to open the doors of Observer Radio here in Antigua. Because it was a monumental fight to get it open, a fight to keep it open, and the managing directors here, it's still a fight to keep the doors open up to today. So I know you're all appreciative of the support that the members of the public give to you.
Yes.
All right.
So Winston Derrick and Fergie as well, are you suggesting?
Of course.
Posthumous honors for both of them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Thank you, Jonathan, for that suggestion.
Yeah.
Perhaps the youth arm of the party can put forward some I think nominations are open now.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the matter with the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs said on your show, I believe it was, earlier this week, as regards to the invitation to the Leave the Opposition and also to the Barbuda Council. And he would have stated, because I was listening, he said that they did not register, and basically saying that the opposition leader and the Barbuda Council were irresponsible not to follow UN procedure and not to register. Now, I know Mr. John Mussington, already spoke for the Barbuda Council and debunked what Honorable Jacqui Quinn had to say. And also,
basically saying that he lied.
Yes. Yes. And also the Honorable Jamal Pringle, leader of the opposition, he put out a statement as well, but I want to reiterate what he said.
Yes.
He would have stated, the Honorable, this is Jamal Pringle, that he would have received a call from the protocol officer at the UN SIDS conference saying you should come in and collect a pass for him the day before. That would have been the Sunday. Now, that pass was only allowing him to come on the premises of the SIDS conference, not for him to participate, not even in the observer, as an observer at that SIDS conference. Now, that is just really an insult. I want to reiterate again for the listening members of the public. The opposition in Antigua and Barbuda would have garnered just over 22,000 votes in the last general election. The ruling government garnered barely over 20,000 votes. Now, that tells you that more people in Antigua and Barbuda today are for the opposition than they are for the ruling administration. It just so happens that due to our first past the post system, the government has a 1-seat majority in parliament. And even by that one seat...
And a seat that they won by 6 votes.
Well, actually, Jacqui, if 4 persons voted differently in that election, we'd have a different government today.
That's right.
4 persons. So you cannot tell me that members of the government who are part of the legislature, that's a legislative branch, they're part of the legislature, and they're part of other bodies and organizations within the government, that they should not have a voice in the SIDS conference. That is unacceptable. And it's even worse that Barbuda, which is ground zero for all the environmental situations that we talk about in the SIDS conference, they were excluded. That is unacceptable.
Yes.
And
I saw you, Jonathan, on the picket line. You can't miss you. You're very tall and you have a very loud voice, and you were supporting the Barbudans there up at the roundabout at the airport. What are your thoughts on? Let's drill down a little on your thoughts on Barbuda's exclusion. Do you think it was deliberate, especially in light of the fact, Jonathan, that PLH A foreign investor had a seat at the table and a voice in the discourse at SIDS.
Yep. So, Dr. Jacqui, of course it was deliberate. Because the Gaston Brown administration knows that if the Barbuda Council members were given a voice at SIDS, they would have aired their grievances, and they don't want that kind of embarrassment. Because as the host nation, Antigua and Barbuda, our government is a very hypocritical government. Because in one tone, they're saying that we are for sustainable development. Exactly. We're for protecting our environment. Mm-hmm. But, however, the same people that the government would have invited, PLH, to speak at the SIDS conference about sustainable development and protecting our environment, they are responsible for the ecocide going on in Barbuda, destruction of the environment, and for disaster capitalism. And even the Gaston Brown administration themselves, we have seen the lands, how they're attacking the Barbuda's rights to own their lands in common, mm-hmm. which has been practiced for hundreds of years. That this is unacceptable. And really and truly, the Barbudans need, I think this is just basic stuff. Mm-hmm. What is there to debate? People who you directly affect, they need to have a say when it comes to you and you're making policies for them. We live in a democratic society. Right. I don't think that is up for debate, Dr. Jacqui.
Great. Let's take the break, Jonathan. Welcome back to Observer AM. I'm Jacqui Quinn, your host. It is now 7:35 in Antigua and, of course, over there in our sister island of Barbuda. If you joined us late, that young, bright, articulate voice you're hearing on the radio is that of the youngest member of the Central Executive of the United Progressive Party, Jonathan Wehner. Now, let's talk a little about the what's current. The latest on your party's challenge to ABEC's replacement card initiative as opposed to a total re-registration, mm-hmm. which is what the UPP desired.
Yes. I just want to let the public know that coming out of the last general council that the party had, the political leader would have announced that a legal team mm-hmm. was set up to help the United Progressive Party in its legal battles against this administration. Because, you know, we really have to be on your P's and Q's and fight them on all fronts possible. So, coming out of that, and that legal team, by the way, is made up of several KCs and prominent lawyers in Antigua and Barbuda. Mm-hmm. That legal team, based upon what ABEC is doing right now, which we'll get into more details, they would have written a letter to Arthur Thomas,
the chair,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have asked for, in writing, for the detailed documentation of the process that ABEC is going to do for this replacement or replacement of cards. Mm-hmm. And up to now, we're still waiting on a response. Now, I would have noticed that I first heard them, I can't remember what date it was, but this week, the supervisor of elections and the PRO for ABEC on Dave Lester Payne, and they would have announced the procedures and so forth that they're going to embark upon to do this replacement of the cards process. So, yes, they're saying it out there on the air, but as we've seen before, ABEC has done a U-turn on some of their policies already. So we want a commitment in writing as to exactly what it is. Now, speaking as to why the party wants re-registration, mm-hmm. I hear a lot of people saying there is no legal grounds for ABEC to do a re-registration. That's not correct. That is not true. In Representation of the People Act, there is an amendment to that act, I believe it was in 2001, but I stand corrected, where it says that ABEC has the right mm-hmm. to pass any regulation as it regards to registration. So through that, ABEC can make a regulation.
Yes.
Calling for re-registration, and
which is what initially they were going to do when they announced that there would be re-registration in October.
Exactly, and they don't have to go to Parliament to pass the regulation. You know, all ABEC has to do is to put that on the table before Parliament, and that is good.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be debated or anything like that. ABEC has authority to make regulations as it pertains to re-registration. Now, the second thing I want to say, re-registration has happened twice before in this country.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Once in 2013 when you were in government, Dr. Jacqui, and once in 2003 under the Lester Bird administration. So Lester Bird administration. So there's precedent in our history. There's also regulation in the law which allows ABEC to do re-registration. And so that debunks the argument that ABEC has no legal grounds to do it. Now, the second argument to this issue as it pertains to re-registration is a political one. Because this is where the party, outside of the courts, you have to sensitize the public and let the public understand why re-registration is so necessary. Mm-hmm. In the last election in 2023, I would have mentioned it before, this government got a 1-seat majority.
Yes.
Melford Nicholas won City East.
Honorable.
The Honorable Melford Nicholas won City East by 6 votes. had 4 individuals in that constituency voted a different way, we would have a different government today in Antigua and Barbuda.
Right.
So no matter how clean somebody says the list is, because I did hear the supervisor of elections on Dave Lester Payne saying that we have the cleanest list in the region. Mm-hmm. And yes, there might be some dead people on the list, but they don't vote. I have to say that we and in Antigua and Barbuda, we know there is sometimes there is people who slip through the cracks.
What about the assertion that the Honorable Prime Minister made in his own voice that he moved persons from his constituency into other constituencies to bolster his colleagues?
Yeah, yes, and we're not foolish. We're not stupid in Antigua and Barbuda. We know exactly what he means by that. So we're saying, even if you, Mr. Supervisor of Elections, believe the list is so clean, 4 people was enough to decide the government of the today. Right now. Mm-hmm. So the list can be clean to your satisfaction, but it needs to be as clean as possible, because the Prime Minister, by his own admittance, is doing things that really and truly are not legal, are not permitted on the Representation of the People Act and as it pertains to our elections. Also, not only did he say that he moved people out of his own constituency to bolster others, the Prime Minister raised concerns about the list, the voters list in St. Peter. He said there's so many hundreds of transfers and that needs to be investigated. So even the Prime Minister,
thanks for reminding us,
has issues about the register of the voters in St. Peter. And he, by his own admittance, are moving people out of his constituency, which really they will not be able to meet the residency requirement sufficient to be able to be legally registered in certain lists. Mr. Supervisor of Elections, I heard some of them saying that in 2013, the reason why there was a re-registration is because your government, Jacqui, when you were there, you would have increased the amount of years required for CARICOM nationals to qualify to vote. I think it was from 5 years to 7 years it was.
That's right.
Yes, exactly. So they're saying that is why there was a re-registration, because there was a change in the requirements to be able to vote. That is not the only thing that would prompt a re-registration. Yes, the requirements is one, but also the integrity of the list is the most important thing.
That is paramount.
That is paramount. And that is on the attack by this current Labour Party administration, and they're doing it blatantly. After the election, the United Progressive Party would have written to the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions, giving her the transcript of the recording of what the Prime Minister had to say to Honourable Gaston Brown about transferring people out. And realizing that this cannot continue the party, we would not be any good opposition if we didn't make any objections. The Director of Public Prosecutions wrote back to the United Progressive Party saying, bring more evidence and I will consider an investigation. So we must do her job for her as the Director of Public Prosecution.
It seems so. It seems so. No, we've been told by Abek Jonathan that the cost is prohibitive. And in that same outing on Dave Lester Payne, connecting with Dave, Mr. Hughes mentioned that it would cost $9 million in the case of re-registration and $2 million in the case of card replacement. Does this pass the muster, this cost factor? Is this satisfactory to you, this explanation about why we're going for card replacement as opposed to re-registration?
Dr. Jacqui, I have one question for you and your listeners in response to that. What is the price of democracy? And if somebody can call in late in the Spill the Big segment or put it in the WhatsApp board, what is the price of a proper, functioning, liberal, free and fair democracy?
Hallelujah.
One of the main tenets of a democratic society is a free and fair election. If we cannot have a free and fair election in this country, we are not a democratic society. So, Mr. Supervisor of Elections, yes, you may think the list is clean, but you, by your own admittance, there are dead people on the voters list. We need to clean up the list. By the Prime Minister's admittance, he's transferred people outside of the legal residency requirements into other constituencies. By the Prime Minister's admittance, there is concern for what he said, the voters list in St. Peter. So the voters list is a main part in keeping the integrity of our elections free and fair. Okay?
That's right.
And there's no price. There's no price for democracy. That is my response to that.
I don't know if we have the time, but Manny James was laid to rest yesterday. We still have no word from the police top brass about the findings. What are your thoughts on this?
Dr. Jacqui, we looking at the Honourable Stedroy Cutie Benjamin, who is our Minister for Public Safety, he'd have declared in Parliament, just coming back to that really quickly, we have one of the safest countries in Antigua and Barbuda. We can all see when we listen to the news and we hear word of mouth, crime is on the increase. Not also crime. there's some actions. I know most of our police force, most of them, do their jobs with integrity and responsibility, and they're outstanding police officers. But when we see things, we need to investigate them. Manny James was shot in his back. Accordingly, allegedly to reports, he was shot in the back while trying to escape police. There needs to be an investigation, and there's been none so far, Dr. Jacqui.
And he was unarmed.
Unarmed, yes.
Unarmed.
By all reports.
Thank you very kindly, Jonathan Wehner, the youngest member of the UPP Central Executive. It has been a pleasure talking with you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day, sir, and a great weekend.